Whoa, G Bumpy 2000 here. About to dive in for a reading of Slappy's Nightmare. And if you've never read Slappy's Nightmare before, stick around. Read it with me. Now, before we dive into the book, let's admire this cover. That's a nice cover. The spine. And a quick gander at the back of the book. Like most Goosebump books, there's a preview in the back for the next book in the series, and this time it's Earth Geeks Must Go. This is the cover stamp. And if you're interested in the ads in the back of the book, there's really not much going on then in the way of that. Alright, let's dive into Slappy's Nightmare. Jimmy O. James adjusted the sleeves on his black turtleneck sweater. He nervously brushed a hand back over his short brown hair. His hand felt cold and wet. He peeked through the curtain at the audience in the theater. The lights were dimming, but he could see the eager faces, the clapping hands. Kids leaned forward in their seats, bumped each other with their elbows, chatted in low whispers, ready for the show to start. Jimmy took a step back from the curtain. He adjusted the ventriloquist dummy on his arm. He brushed a piece of lint off the dummy's red and white check jacket. Then he straightened the dummy's red bow tie. "Keep your hairy paws off me," the dummy growled in a harsh rasp. "Touch me again, and you're roadkill." "Listen to me, Slappy," Jimmy whispered angrily through gritted teeth. He saw a stagehand signaling to him that they were about to open the curtain. Showtime. A musical fanfare blared over the loudspeakers. The kids in the audience began to quiet down. Jimmy O. James gripped the dummy tightly. "I'm warning you, Slappy," he whispered. "What smells?" The dummy interrupted, wooden lips clicking as he talked, cold blue eyes darting from side to side. "Is that your breath? Or did you step in something backstage?" "Shut up," Jimmy hissed. He gave the grinning dummy a hard shake. "This is your last chance." Slappy tossed his head back in a shrill, scornful laugh. "This is your last chance, Jimmy," he rasped. "Your last chance to be funny." A large drop of sweat ran down the side of Jimmy's face. He brushed it away with his free hand. He glanced behind him. He saw two young crew members staring at him, watching him as he argued with the dummy. Just warming up," he called to them. "Jimmy, I have a warm-up exercise for you," Slappy growled. "Go jump off a cliff." On stage, the host of the show had started to introduce them. "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's put our hands together now and give it up for the world's greatest ventriloquist, Jimmy O. James and his cute little pal, Slappy." Applause rose up through the theater. "Cute little pal," the dummy cried. "I may puke." Jimmy gripped the dummy's wooden neck. "Don't mess up, Slappy," he warned again. "I mean it. This is your last chance." The painted red grin spread over the wooden face. The dummy giggled. "Don't worry. I won't let you down." The applause thundered now. The curtain slid apart. Holding the laughing dummy in both arms, Jimmy ran out to begin the show. Chapter 2. Beads of sweat rolled down Jimmy O. James' forehead, but he had to admit the show was going pretty well. He had been on stage for 15 minutes, and so far, there were no disasters. "Did you forget this was a comedy act?" Slappy demanded. "The only thing funny up here is your face." The audience howled with laughter. Kids slapped their knees in the arms of their chairs. They loved Slappy's rude remarks. They loved it when he insulted Jimmy. They thought it was the funniest act they'd ever seen. If they only knew, Jimmy thought bitterly. His hand shook as he took a sip from his water glass. If they only knew that it isn't an act. Jimmy, do you eat soup with your left hand or your right hand? Slappy asked. My right hand, Jimmy replied. That's funny. I use a spoon. More laughter. The dummy's voice lowered to a growl. Jimmy, what would you say if I stuck a fork in your eye? Huh? Jimmy swallowed hard. Sweat rolled down his cheeks, shimmering brightly in the stage lights. What would you say if I stuck a fork in your eye? Slappy demanded menacingly. I don't know, Jimmy stammered. Please, Slappy, don't. You'd say, ouch, the dummy declared. He tossed his head back in a cruel, shrill laugh. A few kids in the audience laughed too, but a lot of them remained silent. That's not funny, Slappy, Jimmy said, his voice shaking. Let's not be mean, okay? Here's a riddle, Slappy declared. What's the difference between you and a 6 foot tall pile of yellow dog vomit? Slappy, stop, Jimmy cried sharply. That's not a good riddle. It's a bad riddle, Slappy cried, because there is no difference. He, he, he. This time, Slappy was the only one in the room who laughed. A troubled hush fell over the audience. Kids began to whisper to each other. Jimmy shook Slappy. I warned you, he whispered. Jimmy coughed. His throat felt dry as sandpaper. He reached for the water glass again and, well, he knocked it over. Kids gasped as the glass shattered on the stage. Jimmy jumped off the stool and strode toward the audience. Hey, everybody, I have an idea, he said, forcing a smile. Who would like to come up here and meet Slappy? Silence. No volunteers. Hey, come up here, guys. I don't bite, Slappy cried. I've got a prize for anyone who comes up on stage to talk to Slappy, Jimmy announced. Several kids raised their hands. Jimmy picked a boy in the third row. Everyone cheered and applauded as the boy jogged up to the stairs. Be nice, Slappy, Jimmy whispered. Slappy just laughed in reply. That's enough for now. I'll be back with a few more chapters next time. Goodbye.